You're watching the PoliticIt Podcast.
Good evening. Welcome to PoliticIt Podcast. I'm Senator John Johnson. Today we've got Joseph Kerry with us. Joe, you are a member of the state school board representing Weber County. Well, actually more than Weber County, right?
Yeah. So actually District 2 is Weber School District and Ogden School District. And it has been an incredible 4 years. Just working with the schools, with teachers, parents, meeting hundreds of students. And all in all, a lot of it you can anticipate, and a lot of public life is unanticipatable. The good and the bad, but it's been a great experience.
Well, I've really appreciated a lot of the stuff you've done on the state school board. It's interesting, kind of the evolution of what's happened there. On the state board. I know we have a pretty strong relationship now in the Senate and the members of the board. I think the board leadership right now has really taken charge. There's a lot more coordination with what's going on in the legislature and what's going on in the state school board. So
I do, and I give Chair Hymas, our chair board, our chair, a lot of credit for that. I think that you have 15 elected members, and each one of those members has their own thoughts about what's best for public education and the direction that it should go. And I think when you try to control that or box that in, it just doesn't work, whether it's the Senate or the State Board of Education. But really empowering each member, I think, is the best option. And Matt's allowed us to do that. And he's encouraged us to reach out and share our voices and our thoughts and our research with members of the legislature. And John, I appreciate it. You've always had an open door policy to hearing ideas. And I think that allows for the best policies to come out.
So let's rewind a little bit, because I want to talk about you. I want people to get to know you a little bit better. That's one of the things that we like to do, is that, kind of dig in. Tell our audience about you. Where'd you grow up? What have you done in your life, right? What kinds of things have you been working on? But more, kind of your background.
So I mean, the biggest influence in my life in terms of education has been my mother. And you've met her, you know her story. And she was born in, today we call it North Korea. And when, right before the war broke out on the Korean Peninsula, she and her mother fled south, made it to the DMZ and crossed. But what I didn't know until recently was actually that my grandfather, her father, had a bookstore in North Korea. And in the front of the store, it was all the sanctioned and allowable propaganda. But at night, he would hold meetings, and he would talk about those concepts of personal freedom, of liberty, of good governance. And one of the people that he was meeting with turned him in. And I found out that the last time my grandmother saw her husband was on the border between North Korea and China. He had been sentenced to hard labor. And education matters. And sometimes I think that we don't treat it with enough care and respect, but education really is the bedrock, the foundation for every individual's future, regardless of the path they take. And so my mom, growing up, would always say, you can skip a meal, but you can't skip school. And she drilled that into us, and I've been blessed, was able to attend Brigham Young University, attended Rutgers Law School, received a master's in public policy.
So where's the master's from? The public policy?
The Eagleton Institute of Politics.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And so here in Utah, we have the Hinckley Institute of Politics. Right. And back in New Jersey, it was the Eagleton Institute. And I always knew I wanted to help and contribute. And when I saw this friction between the education establishment and parents, where there was just growing distrust, I thought, wow, this is something that I should jump.
So is that where you were in law school too? Was that the same time, or?
Yeah, so I received a joint degree.
Okay.
I received my law degree and my public policy Master's of Science at the same time. So it was a great experience. And, just we were ahead of the curve in a bad way, back in New Jersey and Philadelphia, where a lot of these, when education started to drift from, I think, its core objectives, which I believe should always be teach people how to think, not what to think. And when we start to drift from that, when we start to say, no, it's more important that they believe this way, rather than say, let's develop that critical thinking, let's develop that in the student, in the individual, to discern for themselves what's good, what's bad, what they want to do. That's not the primary purpose of education. And that's why I got involved. That's why I decided to run.
Well, I think that's, I mean, if you think about this AI revolution we're in the middle of right now, we need to get beyond teaching people the mechanics, the things that machines do really well, and back to this idea of, teach you how to think rather than what to think, right? Okay, so one of the things I've been thinking about is this, in this whole move, you mentioned this idea of teaching kids to think, but this whole move into the AI revolution, that's going to be more important than it ever has been.
Yeah, it is a massive disruptor in every facet of life, but in particular in education. And what we're seeing is, even in the creation of what we refer to as these individual education plans for our special education students, AI is having a bigger and bigger voice in the creation of these IEPs.
Right.
And I wonder, and I think to myself, well, how individual can they be when
the machine's putting them together?
Right. And I think that AI is a tool, and I think that we need to rely on it. I think we need to use it, but we need to master it. And we fail our students when we sit them down and we put a computer in front of them and we disconnect. I think one of the greatest things the schools can do is just develop this real connection between students and their teachers. And John, I think you know this. My third grade teacher, Mrs. Thomas, I don't know her first name because, when I was in school, we didn't call them by their first names. Yeah. Even to this day, I don't know her full name. But she changed my life. Like, I was, my mom didn't look like the other moms. She didn't sound like the other mothers. And I was bullied all the time because my mom was Korean. And she saw something in me that at the time I didn't even see in myself. And this teacher really helped me fit in. And I would be a different person today if not for Mrs. Thomas. And I've shared this before, that for the longest time, her name was part of my online password. Now, since I've run for office, I've changed her name from that. But that's the power that our teachers have. And I'm grateful for that. I want them to have that connection. I want them to be able to look at students and say, what does Billy need? What does Susie need? What's going on? How do I help? And And I think that's where we're falling behind. When I'm on the faculty at Ensign College, and when I meet with employers, they tell me the same thing. They say, Joe, yes, they need to know, the latest software. They need to know data analytics. They need to know data visualization techniques. But they all say the same thing. They say, but the most important thing is they need these durable skills. They need these soft skills of critical thinking, creative thinking, communication, leadership. And our school, we need to be developing all of that, not just the technical side.
Right.
But instead, I think what we've done is we've sat them down in front of these computers, in front of these electronics, and said, great, you're going to be masters at this particular area or subject, but we've neglected this connectivity.
Right.
And we need to restore that.
That's good. Hey, we're going to take a break and we'll come right back.
Tired of media bias? Frustrated by political noise? PoliticIt.com cuts through the clutter, giving you real facts, clear analysis, and unbiased insight on the issues that matter most. Stay informed, stay empowered. Whether it's elections, policy changes, or breaking news, we've got you covered. No spin, no agendas, just truth you can trust. Visit PoliticIt.com today, because informed citizens shape the future. PoliticIt.com, where politics meets clarity.
Welcome back to PoliticIt. We've got Joe Kerry with us, our local member of the state school board, Utah State Board of Education. Joe, what you've been around all these issues a lot. What do you think is the most important issue on the minds of parents and families with respect to education?
I will tell you that parents, teachers, they are fully vested. Parents because it's their kids, teachers because it's their students. And people get excited when you talk about education issues because you're talking about their children or their students. I will tell you, a lot of the passion that I saw from both sides of that equation came when I attended these truth and taxation hearings a few months ago. And look, it's a reality that our schools need money to function and to operate and to educate. But I also sat there and I heard from teachers, I heard from parents with kids in the schools who just said, our back's against the wall financially. Like, we love what you're doing. We love how you're doing it. But the reality is, we don't have the bandwidth anymore to keep writing these checks for every increase that the school comes with. And John, our schools, we need to do some things absolutely as experts. And to me, we have to teach them how to think, right? The reading, the writing, the arithmetic. But too many times I see, even at the state level, these programs that come around every year, every 2 years, and they promise to solve all our problems. And we spend, at the state level, we're getting a better handle on it. But even at the local level, we can't afford to do everything. We have to really focus on, are we teaching these students the skills that they need to pursue their dreams? And I think when you say, what do parents talk about? Parents generally just want to know, when they send their kids to school, are they safe? Are they learning? And as I've traveled and I've gone to public schools, private schools, charter schools, I always ask the teachers and the parents and the students, why are you here? Why did you choose this school? Most because they love the school, they love the teacher, they love the experience. But when they decide to move their student, the number one reason why they pull their student out of one school and move them to another school is their student doesn't feel safe there. They don't, and when you don't feel safe, you can't learn. And to me, the primary purpose of school is to prepare these students to do and pursue their own passion. And that could be going to college, it could be going to trade school, it could be going into the military. you know this, all students aren't created the same. And our schools have to do, to lay that foundation to allow them to pursue their own passion. And the only way we get there is by empowering them on how to think, how to process, how to critically analyze. And too much of our time, too much of our resources are spent on projects that don't get to that end. As a Board of Education, as a state, I don't think we can continue funding those programs or policies that don't put the student eventually in the driver's seat.
So tell me some of the other things that you've been thinking about in terms of our education system and things that we maybe need to prioritize.
I think for a long time, this is when I was in high school. Now, it didn't matter because I had a mother who was telling me I was going to college whether I wanted to or not, right?
Right.
It didn't matter what the counselor at school said or what the counselor at school wanted. But I think for a long time, and our schools, I still think, have this bias, which is you have to go to college. You've got to graduate, you've got to go to college because college is going to prepare you for what's the global economy.
Right.
For a lot of students, college is the right step, and you should go. And if you need to go, we have some of the best colleges and universities in the country right here in Utah. I firmly believe that. But for other students, college isn't the answer. And I think our public schools shouldn't be afraid to tell students or make students feel inferior or feel that somehow they've let the system down if they don't go on to college. I'm a big fan of the CTE courses, the Catalyst Centers that we're creating, opportunities for students to say, you know what, maybe I want to explore the trades. Now, when I was in school, the trades were, wood shop, metal shop, welding, automotive. But today when we say trades, that's everything from digital marketing to
movie production to
aeronautics.
Right.
It is this wide spectrum, but it's saying maybe going to college to pursue these things isn't necessary for you. I think that's tremendous. Because again, with the advances we have in technology, with the artificial intelligence that students have access to now, before you were almost required to go to an institution of higher education to get that training and knowledge. Today, those things are available.
We just had our last board meeting out at the Catalyst Center, one of the last ones for the Education Interim Committee. Fabulous, some of the stuff they're doing out there. Oh. That's the Davis County, and that was kind of the model for building this whole Catalyst push, right? The idea of supporting the trades. But I think there's a lot of interesting things going on, and you're right. We need to find things that fit the students, at the same time making sure that we're doing that responsibly with respect to budget.
Oh, it is. And like I said, I think one of the things we have to look at, I championed a push to have all Utah State Board of Education funds received by the federal government audited. I wanted to know how much we were receiving and what does it cost us to administer those funds at the state level. And
all that money has strings attached to it, right?
This is just the financial component, right? And then we have to look at, well, what part of our independence do we sacrifice to get that money, and is it worth it? And, we're still going through that data, but I will tell you, John, that to me, we have to lead by example, and that requires us to be better stewards of the funds that we have, and to be a little bit more attuned to those budgetary items that we can address.
Yeah. Well, I really like. I mean, I know you got real involved with a group of parents that were worried about their school closing out and I really like the way you handled that, the way you dealt with parents. I mean, you're a representative of taxpayers, right? Yeah. And so that includes parents who are worried about the education, but it includes people who are, in their 70s and are sick and tired of the property taxes taxing them out of their homes. But also, you've also been a champion of teachers, right? And sometimes we throw so much at teachers that they really can't do what they're passionate about.
They did a survey and they asked teachers why you're leaving the profession. And generally at the top of that list are two reasons. One is, and I haven't seen it recently, and it may have changed because the legislature has authorized more funding for teacher salaries. But always near the top of that list is a teacher saying, I entered this profession because I wanted to teach. I wanted to change lives. And instead, they feel micromanaged at every turn. And I think one of the best things we can do is set the floor, set the foundation, and let teachers teach. When we do that, we have not only happy students, but we have students that want to go to school. You know this, one of the biggest battles we have right now is students aren't showing up to class.
Right.
And I think part of
and you've actually done a lot in terms of thinking about that problem.
Oh, and I think the solution starts with let teachers do what they're passionate about doing. Let them teach. Students will want to come to class, right? Students will want to come.
Well, when you first started, you talked about a particular teacher that changed your life.
Yeah.
And I like that you started with that comment because I think that shows the power that they have that can't be replaced by a machine.
No.
The power they have to change somebody's life and to care about them as individuals and to be able to help them along that path.
John, you talked about Lomanview, the school that the district had slated for closure. Those parents in that community lined up to speak in favor of keeping that school open. And they did it. And you know what they didn't talk about? They didn't talk about, I mean, they had to address it, but like some of the financial issues, but it really came down to this. Those parents knew that those teachers loved their children.
Yeah.
To me,
it wasn't about the fact that building actually needs repair.
Right, and
it's not, I mean, they could have sent their kid to a much nicer building.
yeah. And
right?
Parents recognized and said, look, we get it. This school needs repairs. But they knew that those teachers loved their students. We actually organized a walkthrough of that school. And John, instead of trying to close that school, we should be trying to learn from it. Like, what are they doing to engender this kind of relationship with those parents where the parents were like, we will...
Not our school, right?
Exactly. We need more of that.
Yeah. Thank you. We're out of time. Any closing remarks?
No, just thank you, John. And if you'd like to learn more, just visit josephkerry.com.
Thank you, Joe. We'll see you guys next week.